It's crazy to stop and think about our relationship with Eren. We spent years following his story, rooting for him. We'd get hyped every time he pushed past his limits or killed a titan. And suddenly, at the very end, we find ourselves watching this same guy crush the entire world, women, children, innocent people. And the craziest part isn't what he's doing. The craziest part is that, deep down, we understand why. Before we get deeper into this, if you enjoy deep dives like this, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to Your Dead Z. I spent a good amount of time trying to digest everything that happened in the final stretch of Attack on Titan. And the question that keeps hammering in my head is whether Eren can still be considered a good person. If there's any way to defend what he did. Because look at the situation he was put in, man. Imagine someone coming up to you and saying, either you sacrifice everyone you love or you destroy the people trying to kill them. What's your limit? What would you be willing to do? Eren was always chasing one single thing: freedom. He just wanted to be free, you know? He wanted Armin to be free, he wanted Mikasa to be free. But when he finally reaches the ocean, that moment that was supposed to be the peak of freedom, he discovers that the outside world isn't a paradise. It's a place that hates him simply for being born. The people in Marley and the rest of the world looked at the people of Paradise like they were monsters. They didn't see people there. They only saw the devils of Eldian. And man, it's honestly sickening to see how the world works out there. Marley used things that happened centuries ago to justify their prejudice in the present. They turned hatred into a system, put people in concentration camps, and the state itself always finds a way to paint itself as the hero of the story. They completely erase the fact that they are the ones oppressing and torturing Eldians today, and focus solely on the past to justify everything. When Eren understands this, and when he gets that vision of the future, he just breaks inside. You can see it in his eyes. After the time skip, that kid full of hope is gone. What's left is just a guy entirely consumed by despair. Because if the entire world united to exterminate his people based on pure propaganda, what option did he have left? Talking? Humanity doesn't talk to those they don't even consider human. Eren found himself at a dead end. The vision of the future showed him a horrifying path. He was going to become the very monster the world feared, way worse than any Eldian king from the past. But it was the only path that guaranteed the lives of the people he cared about. And he takes on that guilt all by himself, man. He makes absolutely sure to be the sole villain of the story. Could he have done things differently? Maybe he could have. Eren was never a great strategist. He was always pure emotion, always acting on impulse. But we need to try and see the world through his eyes in that moment. He was a scared guy, carrying an absurd amount of weight, and honestly, he clung to the only certainty he had. The plan for the rumbling was going to turn him into a demon. It was going to leave him completely alone, but it was going to save his friends. So, he embraced the idea. Even so, he still had a tiny sliver of hope that he was wrong. There's one thing that for me defines the Eren we see in Marley. When he was in that basement waiting for Willie's speech, he was down there holding his breath. He was hoping for any sign that diplomacy was possible, any sign that the world didn't want to annihilate the island. But when Tybur declares war in front of everyone, and the audience cries tears of joy, right there, Eren's last drop of hesitation dies. That's when he realizes the world has made its choice. So he just gave it right back to them. But don't think he did it with a smile on his face. Eren's pain is very real. Remember when they went to Marley undercover a few months earlier? They met refugees, good-hearted people who were suffering at the hands of the Empire just like them. People who drank with them, shared their food. Eren cries in front of that little kid because he knows, he looks at the child and thinks, I am going to kill you. Does that justify what he does? Of course not. Crying doesn't bring anyone back to life, but it shows that Eren wasn't a sociopath taking pleasure in the slaughter. Unfortunately, he was chained to a destiny that he himself hated. And why does he go so far? Why kill the entire world over a handful of people? Look, the Survey Corps isn't just a group of friends, they are his family, you know? Family isn't just blood, man. The bonds they forged, going through all that hell together are worth more than anything. Eren does what he does for the exact same reason a lot of people do crazy things to protect their mom or their brother. Sasha's death is the biggest example of how he reacts to this. That laugh of his when he hears she died isn't mockery. That's him completely losing his sanity, realizing he can't protect everyone. From that point on, he buries whatever good side he had left in him. He pushes Armin and Mikasa away, and he treats Mikasa like complete garbage man. He beats up Armin, all while it's tearing him apart inside. But he needed to do it. He needed his friends to hate him, because if they were seen as accomplices to the rumbling, his whole plan of protecting them would go down the drain. In the middle of all this mess, the island also descends into total chaos. And being completely honest, you can understand their side too. Imagine finding out that the entire planet agreed you don't have the right to exist. Fear radicalizes people. The Yeagerists turned Eren into a messiah, a savior who was going to step on the people who stepped on them. The problem is that fanaticism makes you blind. They started killing their own people on the island just for disagreeing with them, you know? Eren even used defection because he needed military support, but things completely spiraled out of control. And that's where we get stuck when it comes to picking a side. We understand the despair of the people on the island. But on the other side of the ocean, it's not just the Marleyan military. There are regular people, there are children, there are people who have never hurt an Eldian in their entire lives. We spent years following the good guys. And suddenly, the good guys are forming alliances to stop their own protagonist. When Connie and the others have to shoot their friends from the same cadet class at the port, man, it's one of the saddest scenes in the anime. Nobody there was the villain. They were just standing by different ideals to try and survive. And in war, morality really just goes straight out the window. It reaches a point where we have to ask ourselves, is there a line that shouldn't be crossed? Eren crossed every single one of them, man. He wakes up the Colossals and marches them right over the ocean, the same ocean he thought meant freedom. And he delivers a world free from the Marleyan Empire, but creates a living hell that will stain history forever. Underneath those feet died all kinds of people. Soldiers, innocents, people who hated the island, and people who didn't even know where the island was. You can't call that justice. But here's where things get heavy. Eren didn't do this thinking he had the moral high ground. He's not Light Yagami from Death Note, you know? The kind of guy who thinks he's a god, judging the world from the heights of his own arrogance. Eren is disgusted with himself. That really changes the way we look at him. He understands the weight of his sin. He knows that no motivation can wash the blood off his hands. And deep down, we always knew Eren would end up doing something extreme. He never fooled anyone, you know? Remember the first episode, the absolute rage he felt when his mom died? Remember him as a kid stabbing those kidnappers to save Mikasa? That savage aggression against anyone who takes away the freedom of others has always been there. We just didn't care because back then the target was a mindless titan. They were monsters. Our moral compass only started going off when the target became human. That brings us to the big debate. Was Eren born this way, or did the world make him this way? It's that classic nature versus nurture argument. I think it's a mix of both. Eren definitely had the spark inside him, but Marley poured the gasoline. It was the world's hatred that destroyed his home, killed his mom, and turned his life into a military nightmare. If Marley hadn't pushed so hard, Eren would have just been a normal hot-headed guy, but they squeezed so tight, oppressed them so much that they created the exact devil they claimed to be fighting. The cycle of hatred is real. Marley punished the Eldians for the sins of the past and ended up creating the sin of the present. But Eren's plan wasn't just about getting revenge. His plan was to force his own friends to stop him. He set the perfect stage. He became humanity's biggest threat so that his friends would kill him and be seen as heroes by whatever was left of the world. Is it a genius plan? Not at all. It's incredibly tragic. It cost the lives of millions of people, but he was just an oppressed kid who was handed the power to end it all, and he chose to save the ones he loved. It's really easy for us to judge from the outside, but how many of us could press a button to let our family die in the name of the greater good? Nobody, man. His choice was completely selfish, but at the same time, it was absurdly human. And at the end of the day, what's the verdict? Taking someone's life is something you can't undo. When you kill, you enter the cycle of violence, whether you want to or not. Man, Eren took everyone's hatred and pulled it onto himself. He forced humanity to unite against him. But we know that's temporary. It's like that in real life too. A common enemy unites people real quick, but when the enemy is gone, the differences come right back. The massacre Eren committed didn't erase Marley's sins. It didn't erase Eldia's past. It was just one more giant scar on the history of the world. The idea that after the rumbling everyone was just going to hold hands and live happily ever after is an illusion. We see the Yeagerists militarizing the island after he dies. The fear is still there. You can't just erase the hatred from human nature. Maybe Eren knew that. Maybe he knew he wasn't going to solve the world's hatred. He just played the cards he was dealt to buy time for Mikasa, for Armin, and for the rest of the crew. To buy them decades of peace, so they could live out their lives. And he accepted the price his own soul would have to pay for it. Eren wasn't justified by ethics, and he didn't think he was either. But he made an impossible choice in an impossible world. He wasn't a heartless monster. He was a guy with a huge heart for his people, who was pushed to the edge of the abyss by a world that gave him no other choice. But let me know down in the comments, do you think Eren did the right thing? Or do you agree with me that he was wrong for making that choice? I honestly think he could have worked out other ways to save his friends and change the entire history of the Attack on Titan world. Let me hear your thoughts below, drop a like on the video, and please subscribe to Your Dad's A. Looking at our analytics, over 96% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. Honestly, it gets a little discouraging sometimes and makes me wonder if I should keep making these videos. But seeing the real ones in the comments, showing support and telling me to keep going, is exactly why I'm still here doing this today. Thank you so much for watching, I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out, guys.